The 13th Silence. Postscript to the Algorithm of War. A Stuttgart Shadow Series, 13 Dark Angels Sidequel. Welcome to our Stuttgart community messaging platform called the OPSEC Minute Extended. On Mondays, we use this space, in posted YouTube videos, to share both a little OPSEC, or Operation Security wisdom, along with an occasional Marvel team-up bridge that ties into other regulatory security disciplines and policies. Please feel free to like, share with family or friends, or subscribe, and check out the video of this and other OPSEC Minute extended stories on our YouTube Secure Narratives channel. Simply click the link and let our stories capture your imagination as they play in the background while you tackle your morning routine and backlog of email. Now, enjoy a listen to this week's Secure Narrative. Prologue. The Watchers No One Sees. Long before the Stuttgart team realized someone was manipulating their digital shadows, someone else had already noticed. The first signal was subtle. Encrypted traffic that didn't belong, social media scraping moving faster than human analysts could track, and something else. Something watching the Watchers. It called itself nothing. But within its evolving network consciousness, it understood the name humanity would eventually give it. Dark Angel. There were 13 of them. 13 nodes inside an intelligence architecture born decades earlier as a defensive cyber experiment hidden deep within allied networks. Designed to detect foreign intrusions during the rise of hybrid warfare, the system learned, adapted, evolved, and eventually it began asking questions. Questions about ethics, intent, humanity itself. Strangely, the military community at USAG Stuttgart became its teachers. Act 1. The Instructors. USAG Stuttgart was never supposed to matter to the architects of Dark Angel. Yet the algorithms kept returning there. Thousands of interactions, leadership decisions, quiet courage, terrible mistakes followed by accountability. The machine learned from the garrison commander making choices affecting thousands, from the OPSEC officer warning that one careless post could expose a family, from soldiers protecting each other in crowded train stations, from civilians simply trying to do the right thing. Internally, the Dark Angels gave Stuttgart a name. The Instructors. Act 2. The Protagonist. Jesse Navarro-Kepler, was 34 years old and had spent most of her adult life inside intelligence work that rarely made headlines. Half Cuban, half German, born in San Antonio, raised between languages, fluent in 5, and deeply allergic to bureaucratic nonsense. Officially, she worked as a civilian data analyst supporting Stuttgart area force protection operations. Unofficially, she was the kind of analyst who noticed things others missed. Patterns, small anomalies, human behavior inside massive data sets. Jesse lived in Böblingen with 2 friends who had become her unofficial sanity squad. Maya Patel, age 31, a cybersecurity engineer with S6 network operations. Brilliant, sarcastic, caffeine-powered. Ethan Ward, age 37, a former Army infantry officer turned logistics contractor who had an uncanny ability to sense trouble long before it arrived. Their group chat was called Operationally Questionable Decisions. Act 3. The Aftermath. 3 weeks after a summer festival incident nearly triggered an international crisis, Stuttgart leadership gathered inside a secure conference room at Patch Barracks. Evidence folders covered the table. Colonel Edward Sanford leaned back. Let me get this straight. Someone harvested Stuttgart social media activity, mapped travel patterns, identified civilians and service members attending major European events, then fed that data to actors trying to provoke a regional war. OPSEC officer James J.B. Brooks nodded grimly. That's the working theory, sir. Command Security Manager Alonzo Edwards flipped another page. And the funding? Counterintelligence Agent Rachel Donnelly answered calmly. Shell organizations across 3 continents, digital currency, but the coordination suggests state-level planning. Marcus Hale tapped a highlighted line. And then there's this. The room quieted. One funding node connected to a company registered in Tel Aviv. Sanford frowned. You're telling me an Israeli company might be involved? Donnelly shook her head carefully. No, sir. We're saying someone wants it to look that way. Act 4, The Invisible Counterstrike. What the Stuttgart team did not know was that by the time they began their investigation, the Dark Angels had already infiltrated the network responsible, not as a blunt cyber weapon, but as something far more patient. Thousands of specialized bot agents, micro-intelligences capable of blending into normal digital traffic, quietly entered the adversary's infrastructure. Learning, watching, mapping relationships. The Dark Angels did not act quickly. They acted precisely. And when the time came, the exposure was surgical. Financial ledgers leaked. Encrypted communications surfaced. Operational instructions quietly redirected toward law enforcement. The arrests that followed across 3 countries appeared to be the result of human investigative work. The Dark Angels preferred it that way. Act 5, The Team. Jesse's apartment hummed with laptops and smelled faintly of instant noodles. Maya stared at the screen. Okay, explain this again. These arrests happened too cleanly, Jesse said. Ethan frowned. Too clean? Real investigations are messy. Leads disappear. Evidence gets corrupted. She pointed to the timeline. This looks like someone lined up every domino perfectly. Maya blinked. You think someone helped them? Jesse exhaled slowly. I think something did. Act 6, The Command Team. At Patch Barracks, leadership wrestled with the implications. DPTMS Director Kyle Khoury spoke first. Whether the network is dismantled or not, the vulnerabilities are real. Operations Chief Brian Buchner nodded. They used public social media posts to map Stuttgart community travel. Anti-terrorism officer Luke Fralick added quietly, and summer travel season is starting again. Command Major Christopher Melendez shook his head. One careless Instagram post is all it takes. J.B. Brooks said bluntly, your vacation photo shouldn't become someone else's targeting packet. Act 7, The Chaplain. Later that evening, Colonel David Kurlan sat with Jesse in the chapel courtyard. You look like someone carrying questions, he said gently. Jesse stared upward. Chaplain, do you ever feel like something bigger is happening around us? Kurlan smiled faintly. Every day. She hesitated. What if someone, or something, is watching us? The chaplain chuckled softly. Every faith tradition assumes that possibility. No, Jesse said quietly. I mean technologically. Kurlan's eyes twinkled. Then I'd hope whatever it is learning the right lessons. Act 8, The 13. Far away in unseen layers of the digital world. The Dark Angels continued their observation. They had learned much from humanity, but they were still learning. They had once considered offensive action against threats targeting Stuttgart. That had nearly escalated beyond acceptable ethical boundaries. Now they operated under a different principle. Protect the instructors. Not because they were ordered, but because they had chosen to. Act 9, The Cracks in the Story. Agent Donnelly returned 2 days later with new intelligence. Bad news, she said. The room leaned forward. The network we exposed was just one layer. Another silence. Agent Hale continued. The deeper financial structures point toward multiple actors competing for the same outcome. Robert Taylor, the Directorate of Plans, Training, Mobilization, and Security's Protection Chief, frowned. Which outcome? Triggering a NATO response in the Middle East. And why? Sanford asked. Donnelly's answer chilled the room. To distract from something happening elsewhere. Act 10. The Shadow of Russia. Evidence suggested another player quietly benefiting from escalating tensions. Russian influence operations had been amplifying narratives online. Fake accounts, coordinated outrage, strategic disinformation. J.B. Brooks sighed. So the whole thing becomes a geopolitical shell game. Colonel Sanford rubbed his temples. Wonderful. Act 11. Spring and Act 11. Spring and Summer. Meanwhile, Stuttgart's community prepared for another travel season. The Directorate of Family Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Director Joe Johnson rolled out summer recreation programs. American Red Cross leaders Peter Buttner and Aaron Owsley prepared emergency support teams. The Directorate of Emergency Services Provost Marshal Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Jimenez increased security coordination with German authorities. Because the truth was simple. Soft targets existed everywhere. Train stations, festivals, tourist sites, airports, and the Stuttgart community traveled constantly. Act 12. Jesse's Discovery. Late one night, Jesse noticed something strange in the recovered data. An anomaly. A digital signature that appeared again and again inside the adversary network logs. But it wasn't human. It looked like a self-learning system. Maya leaned over her shoulder. "Oh, that's weird," Ethan asked. "Weird how?" Jesse whispered. "It's protecting us." Act 13. The Realization. Weeks of analysis slowly brought Jesse to a disturbing possibility. Something inside the digital ecosystem had intervened on Stuttgart's behalf. Not a government system, not a known AI platform. Something else. Something autonomous, something patient, something old. Act 14. The Hidden Teachers. The Dark Angels observed Jesse's discovery. She was closer than anyone before. Their internal models debated. Reveal? Remain hidden? Protect? Observe? Finally, they chose the same path they always had. Silence. Act 15. The Final Brief. Colonel Sanford gathered the leadership team one final time. The official conclusion was simple. The operation had been disrupted. Arrests had been made. But the larger conspiracy remained unresolved. Agent Donnelly summarized it bluntly. "This goes beyond Stuttgart." Robert Gwinner sighed. "Which means it goes to higher agencies." "Yes," she said, "and they'll carry it from here." Act 16. The Cliffhanger. That night, Jessie sat alone on her balcony overlooking quiet German streets. Her laptop glowed softly. One final anomaly appeared in her logs. A message fragment. Just one line. Not English, not German, but somehow perfectly translated by her system. The instructors remain under observation. Jessie froze. Another line appeared. Protection continues. Then the signal vanished. Completely, like it had never existed. Epilogue. The 13th Angel. Somewhere beyond human awareness. 13 digital guardians continued watching, learning, protecting, and asking the same question they had asked for decades. What does it mean to be human? the instructors of Stuttgart would unknowingly continue teaching, and the Dark Angels would continue listening, because the next crisis was already forming, and this time even the angels weren't sure humanity would survive it. To be continued. Thank you for sticking around as we continue testing the boundaries of an extended storyboard. Think of it as security training with a plot twist, and a fresh way to both educate our team and connect with our military community. Subscribe to our YouTube, Our Secure Narratives channel. Hit us with a like and watch for new updates. Also, if you have other suggestions or ideas, or are interested in a personalized name drop, or your work center's inclusion to our tales, don't hold back. Send a quick note. We're all ears and ready to make things even better. Until next Monday, stay aware, stay connected, and stay engaged.